Something I was thinking about when I was thinking about these episodes was specifically how Mikado was represented in just sort of like the excess media before this arc started and before he lost to Light. They wanted you, the viewer, to believe that this guy was larger than life, that he was this big baddie, that he was above everyone else, that he was something really special. And when you saw him fight, you found out, yeah, he's a very talented Shadowverse player. And he is presented as being in a position of power, being able to threaten everyone and say he'll expel them, being able to just kind of fuck with everybody, whatever he feels like. They wanted you to believe that this guy was something. And then he lost to Light. And all of a sudden, that just sort of like tower he built for himself to his own ego, shut up phone, crumbled. And from there is where they really got you. Before we go any further, as always, I should say, hello everybody. Today we are here to talk about the next several episodes of Shadowverse Flame. Why, you may be asking? Because I'd rather talk about this than Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. When we last left the show off, Shion had successfully overcome Big Chin Dude and got the score mostly tied up. There were 2 fights left to go, and naturally, the next one had to be against Luca. And naturally, you got to pair off a couple characters to go face them. And so, you got to have Itsuki get in there because he hasn't done anything yet. And Megumi hasn't really done anything. Mikado hasn't really done anything since he lost to Light. Or not Light, Hero. Fuck, some of these character names sometimes, man, they're too simple. But yeah. So, they decided, pair these 2 up. Why? Because it leads to an actually very interesting dynamic. Mikado, as I just talked about, is this loudmouth, egotistical, thought he was king of the world, and Itsuki is just kind of this humble kid who's mostly just here to have fun with his friends. And when you pair 2 opposites like that, it comes with some very just interesting scenes. And when you pair this off against someone like Luca, where you're almost sort of selling things on the idea that Luca's been through all this shit. He's seen a whole bunch of like young teens have to come together to form a Shadowverse team. So for him, he's kind of looking at everything with this sort of mentor-esque eye. And I think it really does add to the scenario. I talked in the previous video that one of the things I like about the way the 7 Shadows have been represented is they're not really presented as bad antagonistic people, even when they could have easily gone that route. And this continues on to here. Luca genuinely wants to push everybody to that next level of competitor, that next level of Shadowverse player. And we definitely see that reflected in these 2 characters. Itsuki is very receptive to Luca because he's someone who's much more emotionally mature than the rest, and he's someone who's much better at connecting and developing friendships with people than a lot of other characters. He very quickly catches on to what is going on here, and their fight is just kind of fun because it's a sort of different dynamic of Itsuki isn't trying to overcome Luca, but wants to live up to the expectation that is being put ahead of him. Luca genuinely respects Itsuki's potential and his already existing skill, so it's this genuinely nice fight of one guy just trying to bring out the best out of somebody else, and that person actually recognizing it and trying to match in kind. This is perfectly contrasted with what we get with Mikado's fight, because naturally, Itsuki loses to Luca, because naturally, you need things to go down to the wire. But even in like loss, Itsuki is very mature about it. He's just happy he had this chance to fight this guy and can say he went toe-to-toe with him. And Luca genuinely respects Itsuki's strength and the potential for him to go further. And this results in a great contrast with Mikado, who, how has Mikado's attitude been the whole time? Mostly douchey. And that's the best way to describe it. This kid is a spoiled twat. And the show took great rebeling in this. That's what everything I was talking about at the beginning of the video was about. everything was based around making him seem big and strong. So that way, when that ego gets punctured, when Light is able to show him what's what, you get to see what Mikado really is. He's just a spoiled, arrogant brat who has spent his entire life being told he's special and important. And while that got him by for a little while, giving him a drive to show off his excellence, it means he doesn't have the maturity to actually deal with failure or defeat or to learn from what's going on around him. And his arc has kind of been learning to accept those things. And through his fight with Luca, again, because Luca isn't an asshole and genuinely wants to bring out the best in his opponents, he's able to really be emotionally put through the ringer as he has to grow and come together as a person. This was a genuinely well-handled storyline, and I thought it was actually really refreshing to watch. So often than not, rival and card game animes are just assholes the entire time, and then just at the end, all of a sudden, are just all buddy-buddy. But no, we actually got to see this guy grow and change as he got to see what his mindset actually gets him and where it will ultimately stick him if he doesn't do something about it now and grow the fuck up. And that's really fun to watch in this fight as he comes together with that. And I really like the way it accumulated with him finally looking at Light as an equal, as a rival, as a potential friend. He's no longer angry. He's no longer making excuses for himself. He has accepted that he is just as much a flawed, normal person as anyone else. Even if he's good at Shadowverse, he's got a lot to learn in life, and this is where he can start doing it. It feels like the storyline was dedicated to making him feel like a complete person, and in my opinion, they pulled it off very well. I should also very briefly bring up the thing back at the school where we saw all the other club leaders. That was a little annoying because I just kind of wanted to get through the Lucas stuff. But at the same time, I think it did sort of play into the point they were making here. And that is, even if you're a jerk, you can still grow and change, as we saw our other big asshole in this show slowly also start to, because he lost, have to learn to kind of move past his own ego. But we see it's done in sort of a unique way to Mikado, and we see that this guy is much more still in the lashing out phase. We see he pushes people away, but I do like that it does show that a big part of being able to move on means that you will need other people who are willing to sort of encourage you and push you forward, as we saw with the one other club leader. No, I'm not learning these people's names. But yeah, and I also sort of like that we saw his two, like, simp girls, which could easily have been nothing, and for the most part are. I like we did get that a little bit of personality where they're just kind of like, look, we want to be around you because we like being around you in this club. It's not just because you're strong and powerful. It's probably mostly because you're really hot, but we just kind of like it. And I like sort of giving him that idea that it doesn't always have to be about victory or winning, that his self-worth and his identity isn't always tied to his strength and ability. I feel like we see that a lot in this hobby with trading card games, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh players who think they're top shit and can't take it when they kind of don't do well at a tournament. You see it in the Magic community, in the Vanguard community. It's just kind of a part of human nature. And I think the show does a good job of presenting that in a way that is relatable and understandable. The last little bit there is to cover is, of course, naturally, Mikado wins. He is finally able to win because he is able to get over his own ego, and Luca is happy and respectful in kind, and therefore allows for everyone to go forward. I know there's the whole thing going on with the arc. I guess I should cover that here in the last, 30 seconds. So Hero and Light are finally going to fight, and Hero's all like, I'm the guy who's going to destroy the arc. This means honest to God nothing to me. I know I've brought this up before, but I don't care about this show's plot. I don't care about the arc. I don't care that they're on an island. And you know what? It serves the Genesis Corporation right. Literally, the secretary chick was like, fuck the Seven Shadows. They haven't done what we asked them to. They're on payroll. They're covering the insurance benefits. Can we do something about them before they take all the donuts in the break room again? And the boss lady was like, nah, I'm gonna have weirdly flirtatious scenes with Light. So like, nah, fuck that shit. And then Hero's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna blow all this shit up before something bad happens. And then everyone's shocked. And I'm like, y'all should have expected much else. So yeah, that's all I got to say about the plot. Don't really give a shit about it. But yeah, that was Shadowverse Flame. Mostly focusing on the two fights and kind of where it went. Tell me your thoughts about these episodes in the comments section below. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me as we see where the plot's going. I don't want a plot. Can we just watch the kids be kids more, please?